So today on our interview, we have Kari Hoffman, formerly known as Kari Summers, recently married. How's that going?
It's going well. It's be marriage is it's going well. He's my husband's a jujitsu black belt also, so we have that. We have jujitsu in common and understand each other with that, and I think that has helped our relationship. So when if I want to train a lot, he understands. If he wants
Hmm.
to train a lot, I understand. It's definitely something that jujitsu. We met doing jujitsu. Actually, the it's always our favorite story is the first time I met him, he gave me a black eye. So yeah, and
Lo-
we were just rolling, and yeah, he gave me a black eye, and then after that, asked me Facebook friends, and I told him I didn't know if I could be friends with somebody who gave me a black eye, but that's always our story. We met, on the mat at jujitsu, and and that's where our relationship started. So
that's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it first black eye.
Oh yeah.
A jujitsu love story. I can see the memoir now. Okay, so um, I wanted to introduce you. I kind of asked a question before I introduced you, but this is my first interview, so it's going to be interesting. So if people don't know who you are an amazing athlete. You recently got your black belt. You are multi IBJJF champion. I came to the gym. I saw the medals. It was impressive. I was just like, man, if you melted those down, you could. I don't even know if they're real metal, but anyway, you have quite a bit, and just the sprawl was incredible. And when I came to train with you, I was really excited, and I can say I definitely wasn't disappointed. So, um, as I just mentioned, you just got your black belt. So, when exactly did that happen?
I got my black belt January 2nd, 2023. So, the beginning of the year this year.
Okay.
So, I was I uh I did Nogi Worlds as a brown belt in December, and won Nogi Worlds, and then it was Karen, my coach, made a plan for a big celebration in January 2nd, so I could get my black belt. After I wanted to, my last goal before I got my black belt was to compete at Nogi Worlds and win. And so then, I got my black belt January 2nd. So,
That's amazing. That must have felt incredible to kind of retire your brown belt on such a high and then move on to the next chapter. Um, so, since you've received your black belt, um, how has that affected your training? How has that affected? What are the differences that you've noticed between your brown belt and black belt?
I feel like the one of the big differences is just the expectations. It's like, oh, I'm
Mm,
a black belt. I should know more. I should be, I shouldn't. I mean, there's the expectation of I'm a black belt now. People shouldn't be able to beat me. I should dominate everyone. But as a, 130-pound woman that's 44 years old, I can train with, the, the adult athletes, but they're I'm not going to beat everybody. Like I
ah,
have strengths, and so the challenge when I first got my black belt, there would be times when I want to just like throw it on the ground, be like, I don't want that thing. I don't want it anymore. Because there's such an expectation of, or feeling that expectation of, oh, I should know so much more. And, and kind of, it reminds me of like adulthood. You feel like you always pictured when I'm an adult, I'm gonna have all these things figured out. I'm gonna know all these things, and then you get to adulthood and you don't. And that's kind of where I've with my black belt. I thought, oh, by the time I'm a black belt, I will have a better understanding of all the positions in jujitsu. Or I just I thought I would have mastered more,
yeah.
but it's they say with black belt you're starting over because now the people I'm competing against in tournaments have been, you know, potentially, especially in Master 3, as you know, some of them could have gotten their black belt at 20 years old. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, they've been black belts for 20 years and have so much mat time and experience. And so it's definitely, you know, my illustration is like, you know, at the colored belt, they're like little ponds because there's kind of time limits of how long they're there. But when you get to black belt, it's a big lake, you know, because all the ponds feed into that lake and the fish are really big there, you know. So it's definitely, you know, at black belt, there are definitely times when I'm like, at least I won Nogi Worlds. I know I deserve my black belt, but sometimes it definitely feels like, oh, I should have been brown for longer. I should have learned more. I should be better, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the shoulds. That's a normal, like, you have these expectations, and you just have to embrace, this is where I'm at. And, you know, I'm learning, I'm getting better. It's okay. You know, I don't have to be the best. It's okay to,
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah, I kind of feel that there's always that sort of, every time you get promoted, there's a bit of imposter syndrome that goes on where you're like, you just kind of feel, am I where I'm supposed to be? Do I know what I'm supposed to know? And I think that's just also, you mentioned being an adult, it's like being an adult. I think as you get older, that's always kind of the case. You realize as soon as you think you know something, you know nothing. And
Right.
there's always another chapter and there's always things to learn. And so I think that maybe as you go on, you always feel like that. But once you reach black belt, it seems like that's even a bigger situation, especially how you mentioned, we mentioned your husband earlier, you met in jiu-jitsu. I'm correct in saying he's a black belt as well?
Yeah. Yes. He actually got his black belt 6 months before I did. So he's been a black belt officially for 1 year now. So he got his, you know, 6 months before I got mine.
My
So
husband is exactly 6 months ahead of me on promotions, and I'm like, oh, I'll never catch up. um, so how do you feel his experience differs from your own as a woman? And I mean, obviously you'll have different skill sets. Everyone has different things they're good at in jiu-jitsu, but how do you feel that being a black belt and your training and your experience is different from his? That's a hard question. I'm sorry.
you didn't tell me you were going to ask that
I
question.
didn't. That just came up. I'm sorry. This is for my own purposes. I just kind of want to know.
I, I mean, I feel like, I mean, what comes to mind is one thing, like, he gets more respect as a male black belt than I do as a female black belt. You know, I mean, it's, you know, there's just, like, I've had purple belts try to teach me things as a black belt, and I don't think they would ever do that to a male black belt. Like, they would never be like, oh, let me show you how to do that technique. I don't think they would never do that to my husband, like, never, you know. But
Hmm.
I'm you know, I guess they feel like, you know, I'm smaller, you know, this is coming from, you know, a male purple belt that's, you know, got probably 100 pounds on me, you know, and then, but
Hmm.
they're like, oh, let me show you how to do the move. And it's like, well, you know, if we were the same weight, like, it would be different. And so,
Hmm.
so I feel like, you know, he gets, as a male black belt, he gets more respect than I do. But, and that, you know, I think that, I mean, unfortunately, that's part of being like a woman in the sport, and just, you
In the
know,
world, just in the
yeah,
world.
you know, in the world, you know, and it's, I don't, I don't let it bother me, because it, you know, I feel like in the training room, I'm practicing, I'm training, you know, now, like, I look at, in the training room, it's practice. I'm trying to get better there. I don't have to win there. Like,
Hmm.
where it matters for me is in tournaments. When I compete, that's where I want to win, you know. So, you know, when a purple belt beats me, a male purple belt that's 100 pounds more than me, it's, you know, I don't let it bother me. And when they try to teach me something, you know, teach me a mount escape, I don't let, you know, I just laugh about it. And it's kind of the, like, oh, guess what the men said to me this time, you know. like it's kind of becomes a joke. But I look at my husband and I know they would never do that to him. And
Yeah.
that's it is what it is. It's
Well, that's a good way to look at.
I feel like for the most part, I get like as far as rolling and jujitsu, I get treated better than he does. But he just gets more respect. I wouldn't, in a way, like sometimes, we do. It's a thing called 10-round Tuesday. Where we roll, 10 5-minute rounds, and I always feel like with the men, they get wrecked so much worse than we do because they're out for blood. With the men, like when they roll with me, like and that's another thing. It's always like, oh, you don't want them to go too easy, but also when they outweigh you by 100 pounds, you don't want them to go too hard because they're going to hurt you. And so and that's something you have to, I always feel like as women we have to kind of accept that, and I feel like, sorry, this is a tangent I'm going to run off on.
No, go
I
for
feel
it.
like the men struggle to know how to roll with women. I feel like with my husband, he'll be like, I try to let him work, but sometimes I let him get too far, and then they're cranking on my neck or wrenching on my shoulder, and he says like it's always a challenge of like you want to challenge the women, but you don't want to go too hard, but you don't want to go too soft, and so he says like it's something that I think men struggle with of like, how do I roll with this woman? What's the what's the right approach? And it's funny for me rolling with the white belts, because then it's like, oh, this is what it's like when they're going as hard as they can.
Yeah.
Because with the upper belts, they don't go as hard as they can because they do want to let you work and give you opportunities to try whatever moves you've been working on. So
well, my husband and I have been training partners since the beginning. We've been married almost 19 years in July. And so jiu-jitsu is more like the last quarter of our relationship. Like we've been together for a long time. And so we've always been training partners. And when we first started, it was horrible because he didn't know how to moderate that. And I was like, I will put it to you this way. Do not let me win, but don't rip my arms off. That's the middle, somewhere in between there where you are killing me or you're just letting me win. I don't want to win unless I earn it, but I also don't want to die. So somewhere in the middle.
It is, I think with my husband, what happens sometimes is when we're rolling, like he'll submit me, like choke me or something, and then after that he like goes real soft, and I'm like, stop feeling guilty, it's okay, just keep going. Like I can feel him just like, oh, he feels bad and he's gonna let me do something. I'm like, don't give it to me, like let me work for it, but
after he got you, he probably just doesn't want you to put laxative in his dinner. That's what I was telling my husband. I'm like, you crank something too hard, you're getting laxative and you'll never even know it. Okay, so I want to actually, I gave you a list of questions that I was supposed to ask you, and I haven't asked you any of them. So let's get back.
You asked the first one. You asked when I received and you asked how I feel, like you asked how I felt about it at the time, but you've asked how I feel now.
Yeah, let's get back on track. So as we know, getting women in jiu-jitsu is really hard. I mean, it's a lot to ask of a woman to be like, hey, come in this class where a bunch of gorillas are going to sweat on your face and try to kill you, and then come back again every day until you're good at it. So my question for you is, what initially drew you to jiu-jitsu? Why did you try it? Why did you keep doing it? How everyone's journey to that spot is different and their reason is different, but what made you step into a jiu-jitsu gym?
Well, and I actually feel like I know a lot of moms that are similar to me. My kids started first. So I have 4 kids. My oldest is 18, and then my youngest is 10. And so when this was, 10 years ago, my 3 kids started jiu-jitsu. Their dad was a big UFC fan, and he had big hopes for our daughter, who's 17 now. their dad thought someday she's going to be the next Ronda Rousey or something. So he started them in jujitsu, and then I would bring them to classes. He signed them up, and I would take them and watch them. And I remember initially I was like, I hate this sport. I hate all these people touching my children. I don't like it. I remember just watching it and feeling just really uncomfortable with all the touching, and
Mm-hmm.
but my kid, so my gym is owned by, Karen Baines. She's a female black belt. And she was coaching my kids. And every time I would see her, she'd say, "Hey, you want to try this? You should really try this." I think, and I was working, like, I have my CrossFit level 1 certificate. And so, at the time I was working out at a CrossFit gym. I was pretty, I've always been fairly in shape. And Karen just kept saying, "Hey, you should try it. You should try it." And I kept telling her, "I don't think I can handle all this touching." Some of the other ladies that were doing it would tell me stories about, what, like, men, their sweat dripping on their face, like that. And I was like, "Oh, I don't think I can do it. I just don't think I can handle that." But then, so I watched my kids do it for 2 years, and I saw how it challenged them and helped them, deal with, like, I remember my son learning how to handle losing, because initially, like, when he'd lose in a tournament, he'd, cry and be, just like visibly, just, so upset. I'm trying to think, like, one of my boys was like wailing, after he lost at a tournament. And, and like teaching them how to, be able to calm down, take, accept the loss, and not lose their mind. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
seeing that and seeing how jujitsu changed them and changed their, gave them more confidence. And my, it was like a turning point where I finally tried jujitsu. My daughter, my 17-year-old daughter, Faith, did Naga, and she, had to go, I don't know, had to go against boys or something, and she lost. And then she was like, this is back when, like, Naga would make their brackets, like, just on the spot. And so she,
Yeah.
she was like, "Hey, I want to compete some more. I want to go again." And so we, they let her go into another bracket, and it was a bunch of boys, and she lost, and, was really pushed. And then she was like, "Hey, let me do it. Let me do more." And she just, like, kept competing. So Genesis Jiu-Jitsu is owned by, Albert Hughes, and then Karen is under Albert. And so Albert was at this tournament and was coaching Faith. And I just remember him telling her, like, he was like, "I'm so proud of you. You're doing something that most people are scared to even try. Like, they won't even put themselves out there and risk losing." And that really challenged me,
Mm-hmm.
And so like right after that, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna try it. I wanna challenge myself and see if I can even do it." And so I told Karen, I said, I'll try it." And she told me initially, she's like, "We'll just stick you with, like, the women and teens. You won't have to roll with the men to begin with." And so, I did my first class, and I loved it. And the touching didn't bother me. I have 2 older brothers that wrestled, and, I grew up wrestling with them. And so when I rolled, that first time, it felt like wrestling with my brothers. And I didn't think about the touching. I just thought about wanting to win, or at least not die,
Yeah.
And it was just, I had such a good time, when I first started, and my kids were so excited about me doing it with them. And so, like, once I started, I was hooked. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, I started out, like, I was trying, maybe doing like 1 or 2 classes a week, and then it got to where I was going to class every day. And then, eventually I wanted to train so much that I made it my job, and, like, and just started, like, at that point I was, just doing, like, odd jobs, cleaning houses, mowing lawns, things like that. And so then, I would do odd jobs all day, and then coach at night and train at night, and, just whatever I could to do more jujitsu. So,
Well, it's good that you can go into a place and discover things about yourself that you never knew you were capable of. of course, as moms, we know we're strong. We've had to do a lot of things, like carry babies, work hard. We have to work when we're tired. We have to take care of people when we're sick. So, as a woman and as a mom, you're strong.
Mhm.
But to be able to do all those things and this, that's incredible. That's next level stuff. Okay. So we get to a juicy question. You handle this however you like. We talked about the differences in respect already, but what are some other difficulties that maybe you faced, if any? Jiu-jitsu is fraught with difficulties. It's a hard sport. Um, but you personally, what are some things that you can look back on and think, man, that was a tough spot?
Well, I think one of the things that, something that I tell women when they start jujitsu, and something I've had to learn is keeping it positive mentally, because it's, jujitsu is hard, and it's hard, as women, as moms, we don't learn a lot of new things. Like, we do the same things. We don't, like, we tend to just do the same things, and you get used to knowing how to do everything. And so then, like, you come into jujitsu and you're learning something new and you don't know how to do it. And I see other women like beating themselves up, or they'll do something for the first time. They're like, I'm not good at it. And it's like, how do you know you're not good at it? It's the first time you've ever done it.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess it's the challenge of like expectation we have, that we put on ourselves of, oh, I should know how to do this, I should be good at this. And it's like, why should you be good when you've not done it before? Sorry.
No,
um
okay.
oh, well, it's my I'm I'm in somebody else's room because it was like the only clear wall, so. But
Your room now.
yeah, I'm taking it over for right now. But I think so. I mean, that's a difficulty that I feel like, I overcome it and then I revisit it again, of just accepting myself where I'm at in my jujitsu, where I'm at in my skill level, and keeping it positive, of telling myself, I haven't I haven't mastered this yet, and that's okay. I'm not good at this yet, and that's okay. It's a really, like, embracing yourself where you're at, and letting, keeping jujitsu fun. Because sometimes if you start to like beat yourself up about it and be like, oh, I should, the shoulds, and it stops being fun, and it's
Mhm.
supposed to be fun. Like, it's, I love, like, you learn a new move and then you're able to do it, and and seeing yourself get better, and something that, used to be hard isn't hard anymore. That's the great part about jujitsu, is you have things to make yourself proud, because as
Mhm.
moms, like, we don't, I always joke about, what 44-year-old women are getting medals, like, how are, like, but, I get to do tournaments and compete and get medals and get like these accomplishments where, in your everyday life, nobody gives you a medal for cleaning the kitchen up. Nobody gives you a medal that, oh, I actually cooked dinner and everybody ate it. There are
Mhm.
things you can be proud of, but it's, you do it every day. And so with jujitsu, it's this opportunity to do new things. And sometimes you don't you struggle with it, and embracing that struggle and telling yourself it's okay. I'll learn it, I'll figure it out. And that's,
Mhm.
so I feel like the difficulties I have with jujitsu are mostly like mental, of keeping, like, encouraging myself, and challenging myself, and allowing myself to not be good at it, and still try. I remember,
Mhm.
I've, I won Master Worlds at purple, and then brown, and then I won Nogi Worlds at brown. But like, when I was a blue belt, I lost all the time, like, just lost and lost and lost. And I remember one time I was like, I can lose all the time and still like jujitsu. Like,
Mhm.
I don't have to be a winner to still like this and still want to do it and still come in to train and learn. And so I think difficulties for me have been to embrace where I'm at, and enjoy it, and allow myself to be, to say it's okay to not be good at it, and it's okay, to keep trying. And I don't know, I have, lots of like illustrations I tell the women. Like I talk about, the jujitsu techniques or the lessons are like seeds, and some seeds, they come out and they grow real quickly. Like if it, like closed guard techniques, they usually are pretty easy to understand. But then you start getting into like X guard or, like these other more challenging techniques, and the first time you learn them, like you may just not be ready, like your body's not able to move that way, and it's being able to say, okay, that's a seed that's not growing yet, but we'll come back to it and it might grow later,
Mm-hmm.
and so being able to see that as, oh, that's a seed and it's just not ready to grow, and that's okay, and
Yeah.
keeping like keep and I tell the ladies all the time, it's like you got to keep it positive, like keep telling yourself it's okay to be where I'm at right now. I will learn, I will get better. It happens. So
I think that's a hard thing because especially a lot of women are really hard on themselves and they
uh,
want to be they feel like they're expected to be good at everything immediately and they're expected to you're not supposed to get upset, you're not supposed to get angry, you're not supposed to show any of these emotions. Everything is supposed to be completely fine all the time and you're just supposed to naturally be good at stuff. You're not supposed to struggle at all, and if you are struggling, you're definitely not supposed to show it. And I think with jujitsu, there's no way to hide that. If you're struggling, it's completely obvious.
right.
Um, and so being able to face those obvious self-assessments, it's hard mentally. And you because usually when you have struggles, you can ignore those things. You can't ignore it in jujitsu. It's right there.
Right.
And so it's a hard thing. And that's a really good analogy. I like that. I like the positive analogy of growth as well, because I mean your jiu-jitsu is constantly growing, it's constantly changing, and so the analogy of it being like plants or I mean that's really cool. I like that. You're so smart. Okay, so as I was saying, Karen is the gym owner. How do you feel your experience is different having a female gym owner, because that's pretty rare. I'm sure there's more than I know of, but in this area I only know of two. um, so how do you feel your training and your experience is different than maybe some other people's?
I mean, I for me, I've had a female instructor all the way through. So she, and a small female instructor she's actually the same age as me. So Karen's 44. She's probably like she's 100. I mean, she's like gone, been around 115, I think now. She's like she's a small, jujitsu practitioner like me. So it's really, she understands my journey or where I'm at, and and I don't know what it'd be like to have a male who, if, that's like, young and bigger, and how they would see see me as a student. Having Karen, she's always been like very encouraging, very positive, very, you know um very understanding, and treated, always given me like kindness, and said, oh, it's okay, we'll keep working at it. And I've and Karen, has gave me opportunities to be a coach there. So I mean, I can't speak to what other people's experiences are like, but
Yeah.
I know for me, I've always had Karen there. So even, I was talking about, like, I had this one when I was single, this one Valentine's Day, I went and trained, and it was all big teenage boys. And then, Karen, and I was a white belt, and I got, wrecked by all the teenage boys. And I was like, this is the worst Valentine's Day ever. But like, I was there, but I still had Karen, so it was rare to be the only female, because the instructor, Karen, was a female. So, and not, I'm sure a lot of people don't have not had that experience. So, you know, I, um, I don't know what, what it's like for other women having a male instructor. I'm not sure. I kind of, I think, she, like, I train at the other gym with Albert, but it's like Karen's always been my home base, and she's the one who, she's always supported me and encouraged me and given, she's always put so much faith in me. And, like, first time I did Master World, she, I didn't have any money, and I, was not, like, she took me out there and gave me the opportunity to compete. And it was like first IBJJF I ever did was Master Worlds as a blue belt, and I won my first one, and, but she, she's always put a lot of faith and encouragement and been like, you can do this. You're a, she told me one time that she's like, someday you're going to be a world champion. And it's amazing how, like, somebody speaking that into you, like, you go, oh, really? Me? And you, like, you wouldn't, I mean, especially, I mean, I would never have thought I was capable of that. And then having someone speak that to you, it really, it made it where, oh, I could do this. I could be a world champion, So I can't, I'm not sure I don't know what it's like to just have a male professor. But I know for me, having Karen, like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. Like, I would not, I'm sure, like, I don't know that I would have ever started. I don't know that, when it's rough and you feel like, when you feel like, maybe I'm not good enough for this, like, and having her always keep telling me, you can do this, you're good at this, you're smart, you're an athlete, she, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So
that's emotional. You hit me with the girl power. I felt it. You got me a little bit. No, but I mean, that's absolutely true. Having that sort of support and having someone who believes in you unequivocally and just knows where you're coming from, knows how you feel, has a similar experience is, I mean, that's invaluable. Like, it's incredible. And also, just from a different perspective, from a non-emotional perspective, she probably teaches things that work for her from
mhm.
the perspective of a small person. And so you probably get techniques that work specifically for your body type a lot more than, say, someone who trains with their professor is 200 pounds and it's a whole different situation. I feel like being on bottom and things like that is kind of for tournaments frowned upon a lot. So you don't get a lot of that training. And for me, I'm like, yeah, but if the person is gigantic and I can't get out, how am I going to attack from bottom? That's what I want to know. Like, show me how to be sneaky and tiny and wiggly from bottom. That's what I need to know.
And
So I think
that
I think you
that
would get more of that sort of training.
well, that's very much my skill set, is being tiny and sneaky on the bottom, and working underneath people and around them. And half guard is my game. It's how I sweep and get on top. And it's it but yes, definitely having Karen, who's the similar size, age, the techniques that she coaches, they work really well for me. And and then, like, we have, at between the two schools, there's lots of different instructors, and so you start seeking out the instructors that are, I always joke with, like, the men, I'm like, they're my size, when they're like, I'm 130 and they're 160, but that's my size, because there's not a, and so the instructors that are a little bit smaller, like, their techniques tend to resonate more with me, and I know that I can apply them more than sometimes the big guy jujitsu that, just, I don't have the size to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Same way. We have visiting professors, and one of our professors, Professor Douglas, he is 130 pounds, and I'm like, show me everything. How do you do this? Like, and he's over there flying, triangling giant guys, and I'm like, yes, that's what we need here. Um, okay, so now, what are your current plans? So you've won the medals, you're continuing to compete. What are your goals in the near future? I want to know what you're going to be up to.
Well, and just to like kind of give you a heads up, I have a class at 11:30. So,
Okay.
I need to, I mean, we've got about like 10, 15 more minutes.
Okay.
But my plan is like, I'm taking the summer off from competing. I have 4 kids, so I don't balance well when I'm like competing. I tend to train all the time. And so I'm taking the summer off just to try, to do more things with my kids and be, focused on them. But then like my next tournament is Master Worlds, so I'll be going to Master Worlds and, see like, I, so one of my goals at Purple was to be ranked #1 in IBJJF, and so at Master 3. And so that's actually where all those medals came from, because the way to get to up your ranking is you have to compete and get points. And so I was determined to be ranked #1, and the only way to do that was to beat, the.
What advice would you give to women who are thinking about starting jiu-jitsu but really just kind of haven't pulled the plug, like haven't gone in? We talked about being patient with ourselves and being okay with not being good at things. Is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
I mean, one thing I would say is it doesn't get easier if you wait. Like, it doesn't get easier to start if you wait. Like, it's, and it's like, if you want to do it, just start, because it doesn't get easier. And it's so funny. Like, when people start, they're like, I've never done this before. I'm brand new. And I'm always like, yeah, that's how we all start. Everybody starts out brand new and never done it before. And knowing, but kind of like telling ladies that you're gonna, on your way there, your heart's gonna be racing, you're gonna be, you're gonna be nervous, you're gonna be scared. And that's normal. I remember one time I was on the way to class and my heart was racing, and I'd been training for a while, and I thought to myself, how many times am I going to have to do this before it stops scaring me? It's like, how many times, and then, and like, it got to the point where it stopped scaring me. But you have to keep doing it, and then it gets easier. But if you don't do it, it won't. It's just like, you have to just, the longer you wait, the more you're going to convince yourself you don't want to do it. But if you just, once you start and know, like, keeping it positive is the biggest thing, is like telling yourself, it's okay. It's okay that I don't know what I'm doing. I tell, like, that's the biggest thing I tell ladies all the time. I'm like, keep it positive. It's okay. You're okay. This is, you're at a good place. And, I'm thankful that I'm able to offer like ladies only classes. I think that's something, if a woman's wanting to try it, if she can find like a ladies only class where she can be with women and see, kind of, get started there. I have a ladies only class, and a lot of the ladies train in the co-ed classes now, but they started with me and were able to kind of start in a safe place where they didn't have to worry about the weirdness, and just get into it. And I mean, something I always tell ladies, like when I'm, coaching, like doing like a mount position, and, I'll get into mount and tell them, I know this feels weird, but it's not weird for me. Like, I do this all the time. It's just weird for you. It's not weird for me. Cause, and it's, so a big thing is to just start. Don't, it's not going to be easy if you wait.
Jump in and get it done. Don't worry about it. Just do it. Yeah, right. I totally agree. And well, thank you so much. You're so inspiring. You inspire me. I love watching you grapple. I love training with you. This interview has been amazing. You have so much to offer, and I'm just very thankful and grateful that you decided to do this with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me know if there's anything else you need. So
yeah, absolutely. Maybe once you start going again, we'll need an update. So we'll do another one. Different, more juicy questions next time.
All right.
My cheek bad, my cheek hood.